Welcome to the Market Mystics podcast, where we discuss what's happening in the cryptosphere and trading on Earth as it is in heaven. Buckle up and huddle on while we dive in and get weird. Here are your hosts, Joshua and Kim.
Happy Monday, everybody.
Happy Monday.
I know they don't always go well together, but it's actually really nice outside. It's sunny.
That's true. That's true. For January in the Northern Hemisphere, it is nice out.
Yes, right. It's also a good Monday to quit your job and, just join the mass unemployment that is making its way through our great nation.
Yeah. I mean, there is this whole thing going on right now that they're calling the Great Resignation, where there are millions and millions of people just quitting their jobs.
Isn't that interesting? I saw an article that said November of 2021 set a record for people leaving their jobs. Crazy.
It is crazy. I can do you one better. I can tell you it was the highest of the century for people resigning from their jobs, and by 25% higher than any other high month this century.
Wow.
I know. It's kind of really large. So I don't know that we can consider all of these just like straight resignations. There are people who resign and then go get jobs other places.
Sure.
But I think what we're talking about today is it kind of goes in line with this stuff that's been on the news. There's this whole Reddit thing about, is it anti-work? I think that's what they're calling it. I haven't looked at Reddit to see what the content is about. I've just heard all of the things in the news and really seen all the memes going around about this whole interview with Fox News and how it kind of blew up in their faces. So it's kind of a joke about it, but it's kind of in the news right now, this thing about resigning. So there's the Great Resignation. And if you Google it, I will tell you, you will find articles from major news sources. Stuff I was reading was from Time magazine. I think, Josh, you saw something from ABC News.
Yeah. And there was, NPR has an article called The Great Resignation. Insider News has one about people quitting their jobs. Pretty much every major news outlet is going to have some sort of coverage on this because it's kind of hard to ignore.
It is kind of hard to ignore. This is what I find interesting. So they're saying it's mostly millennials and Gen Zers who are exiting the workforce. I don't know that it's laziness. I just want to put it out there. I don't necessarily think that's what it is. I happen to fall into one of those generations. You can guess which one. I'll just leave that up to you.
Oh, you're definitely a Zoomer.
I know. But I'll tell you, this weekend, last Friday, this weekend, however you want to measure it, marked my 1-year anniversary of having left my job. And I would even call it a career. I was there for 15 years. I had not ever not worked since I left college. And when I quit, I don't even know that. I would call it a resignation. I gave them 4 months to find a replacement and get them trained. So this is not me just up and leaving. This was no angry thing. I loved the company I worked for. It was just time to move on. But when I did it, I know that number one, this was from the Lord because I'd tried to leave before and he never let me go. And number two, I knew that I was being called into something different. And the thing that he was calling me to was trading in crypto. And one of the phrases he gave me was, you have been spending your life working for your money Now it's time for your money to start working for you. And so I don't know that I can say that all of this just comes out of laziness. For me personally, that's not what it is.
Mm,
I mean, I have a lot more time, which at this point, honestly, I was just kind of, I told you last week, I was kind of having a rough go of it. I've just been super stressed. And I was contemplating some things this weekend, just kind of taking an inventory. I was by myself, just, going through it. And one of the things I realized about myself is that in the last year, my priorities have shifted. And now my most valuable resource is time. And it is not money or finances. Whereas when I was working, that was what the majority of my waking hours were devoted to, was working for money. And so it was a high priority. I'm not saying money is bad or evil or anything. I'm just saying my priorities have shifted.
yeah.
And it's not about making money anymore. It's about spending the time that I have in an efficient, resourceful, thoughtful, meaningful way.
Mhm.
So, anyway, that's kind of where I am with it.
One thing I've noticed, mm, okay, since I've been young, the picture I've been given of success has always been the nice house, nice car, nice things, nice vacation once a year.
Mhm.
And the older I get, mm, the more my value system is changing, like you're talking about, to where I don't value those things as much. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those things,
Yeah.
but at some point you you get to a place where you are working just to maintain that life. You're working to maintain those trips or that vacation home or that car payment, or and it could be from someone who has millions of dollars, who is trying to maintain all that, to someone who is working just above minimum wage, who is
Mhm.
also trying to have the newest phone and the nicest shoes. And I one thing that I'm seeing happen with this resignation is people are starting to talk about what they're passionate about, and they're starting to pursue what they're passionate about, and they're starting to change their value system from things, or it's not even that, it's not still things to some extent, but it's different things.
It is.
And so it's interesting to see all of these articles about, oh, all these people are resigning. And sure, are some of them because they're making a comfortable wage on unemployment and they can sit around and do nothing all day? I'm sure that is a percentage of them. But I don't believe that that's all of them. I think there is just a wave going around of people saying, I'm tired of being stuck in this system that I've been told I have to be a part of.
Mhm.
And I know for you and I both, you just hit your year. In a month, I will hit my year of leaving a normal corporate career job and pursuing our own ventures. Y- One of the things that really drew me to make that decision was I was spending all of my time, all of my skills to help somebody else build their dream.
Mm.
And I wanted to have an opportunity to build my dream. And I'm not telling everyone that they should go quit their jobs, because there is definitely something to be said about community and partnerships. And there's nothing wrong with working with or for someone else if you both have a similar dream and you're helping each other pursue that. That's totally fine. Kim and I left our jobs and started our own company working with each other because
Right.
our visions were aligned close enough that we could help each other pursue our dreams. And so I'm not telling everyone that they should go quit and be an independent, work for themselves people, but I think you do have to step back and consider what is valuable to you,
Hmm.
what you want out of life, and what you need to do to get that. For me, it was worth it to leave my full-time career job knowing that there was possibilities of having less things or not as nice of a house or not as nice of a car, if it still meant that I could do what I wanted to do, travel where I wanted to travel. I can tell you in my life, I will always pick experiences over things.
Mm.
They're just, especially if it's relational experiences, there's so much more value to me personally in going to visit friends or going on a trip with family or, whatever that may be over having the new iPhone.
Absolutely. I think one of the other things, just as we're talking about this is what's going through my mind. We've watched generations. My parents were, well, they are boomers, um, baby boomers, whatever. So you watch the different generations and how they change. And it's an interesting thing with that generation. It was the next generation that really started um, being so driven, like to get higher education, to get the dream job, to make all the money, all the things. Um, but I believe that it is because each generation is wanting to do a bit more than their parents' generation did. And
Mhm,
typically, that is not because they think they're better, but I think also the parents they want a better life for their children.
mhm,
So you set up this ideal and then people work toward it and they obtain it, but then another generation comes from that, and then it is the next thing from there. And what I'm starting to see, what I'm starting to realize is the generations that have come before us, these millennials and the Gen Zers, we're seeing people working themselves to the bone
mhm,
to maintain a lifestyle that they're not even necessarily happy with.
mhm,
And you see your parents go through that, you see your neighbors, you see people in the community, whatever. And then you're hit with this big pandemic that pushes people either out or in. Like there's the whole medical sector that has been pushed further than they've ever been pushed before, working whether they're sick or not, all these things. And you see other people losing jobs because whatever isn't making it, or people are working from home. Just things are kind of getting tossed and flipped on their head. And I think it really made people start to reconsider how they're living, what's worth it, what's not worth it. Because I'll also say there's been this whole real estate boom, at least in the US. I can't speak for other places because I just don't know. Um, but I'm convinced that it's from so many people who started working from home, like doing remote working,
mhm.
and they're spending more and more time. So they've been spending most of their days at work, coming home at night, going back to work in the morning. Now they're
Right.
spending most of their times in their homes and they're like, I hate this hallway. I can't deal with this closet that is too small. This bathroom is in the wrong place, whatever it may be.
Mhm,
And saying, okay, I need a place that I actually like. And so you see all of these people moving out and moving in. And at least in our city, which is small, it's a small city, big town. I don't even know
yeah,
what to call it.
about
Half
a
a
half
million
a
people.
million people. Yeah.
Right. But you don't see a whole lot of houses sitting vacant. There's been this whole swap of the housing
Right.
around, but it's just people deciding that, hey, I'm not actually satisfied with the way that I'm living. I need to change something. But I think it's the same for the Great Resignation, because honestly, that term has only started since 2020. Last year, it was it was bigger than 2020, 2021. Um, it was, it was wild. It was an estimated, there is an estimated 10.4 million jobs in the US that still remain unfulfilled
Wow.
right now. And they saw a range from a low of 3.3 million people in January of 2021 resigning to the high that you were talking about, 4.5 million people resigning in November.
Mm.
So I think it is kind of worthy of having the title. It's not something to overlook. It's something that's happening. But I
Yeah.
also see a lot more people going to things that are a bit more passive kinds of income, like crypto,
Hmm.
like we have done.
Sure. Yeah.
Honestly, there was a time last year, shortly after I left my job, that I was introduced to and talking to a financial advisor. And just it was in a safe environment. We were talking about um why we were there, what we were doing, all the normal questions. What do you do for a living? It's like, well, I recently quit my job. I am strictly trading cryptocurrency. And then I got the big scoff, like, oh my gosh, how irresponsible. I'm like, well, the funny thing is, I have made this month more than I made in the last 6 months in my job.
Hmm.
Not that that has completely panned out over the year, but at that point, that's what had been happening. And that's the kind of thing that we start seeing. I happened to be in another country when this happened because I was traveling, you know?
Right.
Um, and it just enabled the freedom to be able to go and do these things and not have to worry and make it this life or death situation based on money.
Mm. I You're right. I've seen so many people starting to make decisions not based on money. And one thing I think of is I just got back from Colorado or New Mexico, and I saw a lot of people traveling in larger vans or motorhomes or things like that. And I remember growing up, and if you lived in a van, you were a trashy homeless person.
Mm,
But that's kind of gaining popularity
absolutely.
among younger people
Mhm.
because it's giving them an opportunity. And I will say most of them don't just live in a trashy van. They renovate some type of a van and it's actually quite nice. But it gives them the ability to just be free to move about wherever they want to pursue the things that make them happy. And I saw an article
Mm,
yesterday about someone who had quit their job, sold their house, bought a van, and was living in national parks. And they were just traveling around, hanging out at national parks. And they weren't sad, they weren't poor, they weren't like striving for something. They were just enjoying life and nature. And that's I am so interested to see in a few years from now what this looks like what an entire shift in value system looks like in a nation.
mhm.
Because even with just crypto, you've seen the financial system that crypto is potentially replacing, fighting constantly to keep crypto out or to put regulations on it so that it can't exist or
Right.
can't function the way
Mm,
it should. And now we're seeing an attack, if you want to call it that, on the working system of a country. And I'm guessing that there will be some pushback from that system. But I'm just so fascinated to see, okay, what's going to happen in another few years when all of the younger generations are saying, no, we're not buying into your systems. We have a different set of values. What does that look like for the country, for the globe? I'm really intrigued to see it, because yes, it's going to be different than what we have been used to, but I don't know that it's going to be bad.
Agreed. I think so. The thing that all of the generations since robots were like first conceptualized have all been dreading is all of the machines taking all the jobs of the humans, right? This is like the nightmare of the working class.
Right.
I'm not excluding myself from that, although I'm not working right now. I am fully resting. But what if this actually happens because people are choosing to not work, not being forced out of work, choosing to not work?
Right.
And what if we start seeing a whole generation of people starting to live from a place of rest and who aren't so tightly wound all the time and who aren't constantly at battle with one another? I mean, I'd love to see it. I think it might be a bit idealistic
Sure.
because we also all are poised behind this heavy duty armored weapon. I don't know, highly armed weapon of the keyboard that gives people boldness that they wouldn't necessarily have if they're talking
Sure.
face to face. But I say that. I know there are people who spend the majority of their days behind a keyboard and looking at a screen and stuff. But with this Great Resignation and a lot of the stuff I've read on it, people really are getting out and they're traveling and they're doing the things they want to do that's out from behind the keyboard. And what if this actually improves the human condition? Because it's been a pretty sad state for a while.
True.
You know? So I don't know. I guess maybe I'm just saying maybe that shift and what will happen to compensate, because I'm sure that we'll have more jobs filled by machines, which we've all seen coming. What if that turns out to be a good thing and just frees people up to be able to do things they need to do and get back to being human again and not pretending to be the machine?
That's such an interesting thought, because I'm the same way. I've noticed any portrayal of machine technology is always, oh, it's taking away our jobs. But what if that script was written by the people who were trying to secure that old system? What if that same story was written from someone from a different perspective, like you're talking about? Like, oh, wow, look at this. Now this machine is producing this item and I can go and do whatever. That's a really thought-provoking thing to process.
I think it's interesting. I also say interesting a lot, so I'm just going to apologize right here publicly. Disclaimer, I say things a lot. I say the same things a lot.
I think that's all right. You are who you are.
I am. I like how you included the redundancy in that statement about me being redundant.
Of course.
Oh, it's good. Okay.
I think that about wraps it up.
Agreed. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you next time.
See you guys.
Thank you for listening. Join us every Monday and Thursday as we discuss trading on earth as it is in heaven. If you want to connect further, follow us on social media at market.mystics for Instagram and TikTok, and search for Market Mystics on YouTube and Facebook. If you still need more, follow the link on Facebook to book a coaching appointment. Until next time, see ya.